Good evening, or morning, afternoon. I don't know when you're watching this. Good whatever time of day it is. I don't normally do this, but I'm going to do it now. There are things that you will see in this review that normally I would simply go back and refilm. But I no longer have access to the figure. It didn't belong to me, and it has since gone to its owner. So rather than leave a couple of things without explanation or without you thinking that I realized it, I figured I would kind of clear the air right now about a few things. So, number one, there's a couple of times that the forearm pops off. I mentioned that I had transformed this guy a bunch of times with nothing popping off. And it really kind of bothered me, and I couldn't figure out why the forearm was doing it until after the fact, when I learned that the hinge was turned around backwards, or I had it put back on backwards. Either way, it meant that the kind of stability of the forearm was somewhat compromised and more susceptible to popping off. Advice and lesson learned would be that when you put either the cannon on that arm or the forearm on, make sure that the elbow hinge is facing the right direction. Number two, all of my thoughts therein are the same as they always were. Nothing changes because I'm doing this little intro now. So I'll kind of leave those thoughts for when we look at the guy himself. Number three, very often, for whatever strange reason, I kept talking about the hood popping off. The hood doesn't pop off, it never did. But you know what is susceptible to popping off? The roof. Now, I haven't experienced that. Believe it or not, I didn't experience it for this review either. But it's always tempting to. It's almost like it really wants to, because the friction hinge really probably should have been pinned. And finally, number four. When I finally get him in vehicle mode, you will notice certain unsightly gaps, mostly between the windows on the side of the vehicle and the roof. That's really only because at the very end I forgot to kind of give one final squeeze, and you really do kind of want to do that to make sure everything is sitting nice and flush. It does sit flush. So when I get to vehicle mode, don't think to yourself, oh, that is pretty awful, he doesn't really fit together. He does. It's just that where I was doing the conversion at a distance on camera, I really should have given that one final squeeze. He does fit together nicely. You just have to be very specific with where everything goes. Anyway, keep those four things in mind and understand that I really kind of don't feel bad for not being able to go back and refilm that stuff, because it's Bumblebee and I'm not a Bumblebee guy. I'm so done with them. But nevertheless, I have been enjoying the studio series. So, all that being said, sit back and enjoy, and thanks for stopping by. So if you've been around for the last little while, then you've probably seen that I'm actually quite impressed with the Transformers Studio series of movie-based figures. And I've only really had the opportunity at this point to look at both Optimus and Starscream. Well, today we're going to finally delve into the deluxes, and the first one is, again, thanks to John, friend of the channel, Bumblebee. I'm not a Bumblebee guy, so we're going to see how this goes, because as far as I'm concerned, he has an uphill battle from the very get-go. Stick around, because he's going to be our focus in the latest GotBot True review. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot, and as always, please like, comment, share, and naturally, it is so very important that you hit that subscribe button. Stay with us here, have your say, join the community. Have a look for me everywhere, check out Machinery of Man and the Everything Factor, and we're gonna talk about this guy. Now, I'm not a huge Bumblebee fan, especially the movie version. I don't have many of them, though one of the scraplets really does like him. So what about this guy? I kind of dig his smaller size. I like it. A lot of people have complained and said he's small for a deluxe, but I kind of like my Bumblebees little. I guess that's the G1 fan in me that still thinks of him as a mini-bot. So in terms of a movie version, I like this size. And apparently all of the Studio Series figures scale with one another and not previous movie lines, which is probably unfortunate, but I can see the logic behind it. There's been a lot of controversy over this guy. One, he is sort of a sized down remold of the Wave 3 Last Night version of Bumblebee. So if you know that mold and you liked it, you'll probably like this guy. If you didn't like that, this is not going to change your mind. I feel like that this is more intended for collectors, and because of that, they put in more complexity. For a collector figure and a collector representation of Bumblebee, it's probably pretty good. For the average kid, the average just, young lad or girl who's a fan of transforming robots, don't get this for them. They're not going to enjoy it because of that complexity. It's not that he's bad, but he's going to prove to be frustrating. And I'll talk about all of that. Before we head over to the table to take a closer look at this guy, I just wanted to mention something. This particular review is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a little bit longer because I want to do a public service. I'm going to look, of course, at his box and accessories and talk about the paint apps and the articulation. I'm going to show his conversion going from robot to vehicle. Then I'm going to kind of give my final score, my final thoughts about this guy. And then as a public service, I'm actually going to show the transformation going from vehicle back to robot because he's complicated enough that I think there are those out there who may benefit from seeing it done both ways. Okay, that was just a little addendum I wanted to add there in case anybody's interested in seeing both of those methods. Not something I usually do, but I am in this case. Let's head over to the table now and take a closer look at this guy. And gosh, I know I keep saying it, but I'm so not a Bumblebee fan. Admittedly though, when I saw this guy on the shelf, or rather on the peg, I was really taken aback with him. He really kind of stood out to me, both because of the brilliant yellow and his face. I know it's silver and that's not exactly accurate, but I feel like everything on him really kind of pops, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. As mentioned, this isn't mine. This belongs to a friend of the channel, John, and he's let me look at a couple of these. He's really into the movie figures, so I appreciate having this opportunity. If you haven't checked them out, check them out. East-Coast Music. I will put a link to his YouTube channel down in the description. In the meantime, let's give a couple of quick shout-outs here to Tyler Watson, Elijah Butler, Jace Hatcher, Delta Colony Studios, Ethan Frampton, James Going, TFN 1986, Cassidy Klein, and Sharon Watkins. What can I say? I appreciate everybody that gives me some of their time. It is beyond appreciated. Okay, so I'm going to do things a little bit differently here. We're going to take a look at the box very shortly, and then we will look at the figure. I'm going to show his conversion going from robot to vehicle. It's kind of involved. It's somewhat ingenious, but kind of involved. A lot of people have complained about things popping off on the guy. If you follow the instructions, yeah, that's gonna happen. At the end, I'm also going to do the conversion back from vehicle to robot, just for anybody that it could help, because there is a lot of very specific movements, and it's not that it's hard or bad. In fact, like I said, it's ingenious, but you really have to kind of know what you're doing. So let's get into the box first. And here we have a box. It's co-branded between Takara and Hasbro again. Very interesting to see those two brain trusts come together to give us what really so far And granted, what I've looked at has been somewhat minimal, but so far I've been really impressed with the Studio Series line, and I feel like it's really what we should have been getting all along in the movie line. We'll see if Bumblebee holds up. Nothing much on this side, a picture of B and an Autobot symbol up here. On this side, we have another picture of B. He's one in the series. Back here we have the product shots and the one-line bio, I think that says something like Bumblebee, you know, battles against Decepticons to help his friends, something like that. It's nothing to get, you know, excited about. We can open this up and remove the plastic clamshell that the guy comes in. And just like with the Voyagers that I looked at, we can take out this, and it's a scene that you can display Bumblebee on, either in vehicle mode or, of course, in his robot mode. It's cool if you got the room to display it. I think that this is a nice added touch. Naturally, there are instructions in here. I would tell you now to throw them away because there's a kind of a better method of doing it. And I think it'll make you less frustrated if pieces aren't popping off. Or at least hopefully. I've done him a few times now and they haven't popped off. So hopefully we'll still have success. But before we get to that, we need to talk about the scores for his paint apps and his articulation. Actually, before all of that, I guess I should take a second and look at his accessory. It is his arm blaster. It's silver and yellow. I think it's yellow plastic with silver paint. I kind of wish that the paint, as nice as it looks, and it really does show off the beautiful detailing that's on this, I kind of wish that it had been a darker silver, because I feel like this is really kind of bright. Over here you see a yellow peg and another little yellow rectangular piece. They'll come into play later, but it's nice. In terms of attaching it, you have a space in right here that will go over a section basically on his elbow, and that's what sort of holds that in place. And now we have the glory that is Bumblebee. I'm going to take a second just to show where to put the accessory in robot mode. A lot of people know this. This is basically a slightly downsized version of the mold that was used in Wave 3 of Transformers The Last Night. It has different car parts and whatnot on it, but it's the same engineering, so if you know that, you know where this goes already. There is a hole on the back, but we can't access it yet. Out of package, this is how the guy comes. However, this whole piece here, the windshield and the hood, should fold up underneath. Do that out of package. Then we have easier access to this slot down here. That rounded peg that I showed you earlier fits in back right there. Assuming I can do that now on camera. It's not hard to get it in, it's just, there you go. It's just on camera, and at a distance it's a little bit challenging, but that's where that goes. It's not, you know, it's not the best weapon storage, but it's better than nothing. And when you exchange it with his arm can also go back there. It's all right, I suppose. It does hinder his leg movement backward, but we'll get to that in a moment. In terms of changing out the arms, there's only one of them. If you look at both arms, the hinge around the elbow, one has kind of a black centerpiece, and what is frictioned around the two sides of it is gray. That's the arm, I do believe, on the left side. The arm on the right side is black, both in the center and the pieces out around the edge that sandwich it in, you know, a friction joint type of thing. That's the arm you can remove. So we can work off that arm, and then using that slot that I showed you, we should be able to put this one on over. Again, it's not hard, it's just, it's a bit of a challenge to do it when you're doing it on camera, but there you go. Now he has, you know, his arm cannon thing. Now, I think it's supposed to actually transform the arm, but this is what I was talking about with the silver on it. I kind of wish it was the darker gray. Now, I'm sure people would complain, and if it was the darker gray, they'd say, wow, that's just gray, it's so bland. So I understand why the silver was done, and it does sort of stand out and looks cool. but I don't know if it's quite as cohesive as I personally would have liked. The arm still retains all of its motion. It can go, you know, up, it can go down. If you had the doors out of the way, it could go all the way around. It can go out. That being said, if you have the arm, say, positioned right here, you can't really take it out because the shoulder will sort of bang off of car parts. So the only way to get it out is to be able to move it like in the slot that's right there by his shoulder. We still have an elbow. We still have a bicep swivel. So it retains everything that the arm can do. And it looks cool. In terms of the arm we just removed, again, there's a little circular peg on the forearm here that can go into the little slot right there. So you could take his regular arm and put it in on the back as well. So I think that that's kind of cool. I'm going to take this off and just lay it to the side for now and put his regular arm back on. I've heard of this arm being quite loose. If you work it enough, like you're doing a lot of bicep rotation, you may work it off and wiggle it off, but it's easy to put it back on. And at least on this copy, I do find that the tolerances are really good. It's snug, but it's not difficult to get on. It's not difficult to get off. It's a nice job, I think, done on that piece. So what about his paint? Well, getting this guy more in center there. There's definitely no mistaking that it is, in fact, Bumblebee. I do feel like there's probably more yellow on here than is warranted. Maybe there's some more black that's supposed to be in there, or silver. Up on his head, the entire dome is yellow, but there's some molded in detail here, kind of on either side. That should be picked out with I'm going to say a bit of a darker color. I guess you could do it with silver, but I feel more like a gunmetal gray would be appropriate there. Down on his tummy, we're missing some yellow, or the yellow that's on the piece that's part of his lower chest tummy. Maybe that should be angled down a little bit more. There's a little molded in kind of circular piece on his lower tummy. Just up above that, there's almost a little peak. I think that's supposed to be blue. So there's arguments that could be made for improvements to his paint apps, but like you're not, he fell over there. But like you're not going to mistake that this is Bumblebee at all. I'm going to say it's a solid 8. You know it's Bumblebee. A customizer that cares enough about the movie figures could do a nice job with this. If I cared enough about the movie figures, I could probably do a nicer job as well. Even on the box art, you can see some of that added detail and where it should be located. There's so much detail though with the movie figures that I think it's kind of forgivable. That's why I still give it an 8. What about the articulation for the guy? The articulation is, again, pretty solid, pretty good. We have his head able to go left and right, up and down a little bit. The arms, they could go all the way around. I guess you can get them all the way around if you angle them a little bit. We have an elbow to 90 degrees. We have a bicep swivel. The hand can move in and out, but that's really for transformation. The legs, and the arms can go way out to the side, as long as when you move them out, they're in the cut for the shoulder. Otherwise, you can't really move them out. The legs can go well forward. The leg can go well back, assuming you don't have the accessory put back there or his extra arm from over here. He can do splits with the best of them, so that's great. We have a thigh rotation. We have a knee to 90 degrees. We have the feet able to kind of tilt forward and back. Now, on the last night version, those feet were terrible and did not stay in position at all. It seems like the tolerances are improved here. I also know something else that I guess it bugs me. It's not a big deal. It's just a little slight nuisance. These shin pieces don't really seem to tab in anywhere, and I mean they're in the right position for where they should be, but they move a nice bit. Not a huge deal, but just a slight nuisance. Here's the thing, I gave the coloring and paint apps an 8. And truth is, there's a lot of paint on this guy. The shins are painted. The yellow on the arms, painted. The yellow on the doors, painted. Over translucent plastic on the doors, no less. There's a piece of the hood that's painted. And the paint match is quite good to my eye here right now. He's very cohesive in the yellow that's used. Oddly, last night looking at him under some different light, I could detect the difference in the paint and the yellow plastic. I sort of noticed the same thing a long time ago with the Titans Return Bumblebee. In daylight, it seemed to match great, but under certain fluorescent lights and whatnot, you could pick out the difference. Same thing here. In daylight, this looks great. I don't know how it is exactly coming off on camera, but it looks great. Under certain fluorescent lights, you might detect it. So we have an 8 for that. We have for articulation. Honestly, for a deluxe figure, it has a great range. Everything, again, moves pretty nicely on it. Nothing really gets held up. I'm going to say that's a solid 8.5. Would it be nice to have a waist swivel? Yes, and I don't think we have that. Oh, we do have a waist swivel. I didn't realize that until right now. I'm 9. I'm going to say 9 for his articulation. I think that's great. I didn't even realize it. He stands all right. Here's the thing. Maybe he is slightly downsized from his counterpart in the last night, but I think they've made tweaks and improvements on the mold to make it better than it was. Now, just for a couple of comparisons here, really quickly. Here he is next to a last night figure, that being Deluxe Class Barricade, and you can see, maybe you can't see, maybe I gotta move B over here a little bit. Here he is with Barricade. You can see like he's a little bit smaller than Barricade, both in height and bulk. But I feel like that makes sense. I mean, the studio series are supposed to scale with each other. Apparently, from what I've heard, they actually have like a scale chart, kind of like the old Sunbow chart for the G1 era. I feel like there's, I've read something or saw something that said that there's actually a scale chart. And B's a good size. I know he's not made to scale with Barricade, but I feel like that's pretty good. In fact, taking Barricade out of it, let's throw in something here that he is intended to scale with. That being the Studio Series Voyager Class Optimus Prime. And again, that's a great scale. I know Prime is sort of at a frame there, but you get the idea of how he compares with that Optimus. I looked at Studio Series Optimus not long ago in episode 383 and was thoroughly impressed with the guy. And Barricade I looked at in episode 261 and talked about an update to how to kind of convert his arms in episode 262. So taking Prime out of it there now. Great score. We have a 9, we have an 8. Right now he's getting an 8.5. We're going to go into the transformation next. Okay, so Bumblebee is scoring really well. He's at 8.5. The paint apps are certainly acceptable because you're not, for the price point, you're not going to get the detail that you would get at a higher price point to account for all the detail in the movies. The articulation for a deluxe class figure is pretty stellar. Like I said, I'm giving that a 9. Overall, he's at 8.5. So now we go into the transformation, and I'm going to tell you that it is ingenious. Everything that goes on this guy, it is very detail specific. Do not get this for a child as a play toy. If they can do it, they're going to really struggle with it, probably forget steps. They're definitely going to pop stuff off. It's not going to be fun. They're going to come to you to do it, and you're going to get frustrated yourself. Because again, if you try to follow the instructions, you're definitely popping stuff off. I'm going to do the conversion from robot to vehicle. I'll give kind of my final, analysis of how I think that works and my thoughts about it, and then we will do it from vehicle back to robot just as a public service if anybody is interested or could use the help. And I'm going to attempt to do it without popping stuff off. Okay, so we want to set ourselves up to be as successful as we possibly can, and the easiest way to do that is to straighten out the arm, fold in the fist, bring the arm up over the head, same over here, straighten out the arm, fold up the fist, bring the arm up over the head. So far it seems like it should be pretty easy, hey? It's not. It's really not. So we bring down the foot. We bring down the foot next. If you're anything at all like me, you're going to forget the next step, which is to push the foot out. There's like a black peg, I suppose, in here. You want to push that all the way out. Same here. Push that all the way out. And then there's one other little movement that you want to do now to save yourself hassle later on. Take this gray armature and bring it up just a little bit and sort of angle the foot down. Make sure it's still pushed out if you didn't have it done. So you want it sort of positioned like that. Now the genius part comes in, but it also means a lot of stuff is moving at once. This whole piece with the tire on it is going to flip up on the side while the shin flips to the inside and the back here flips down. So we begin that process by pulling out what's going to be the rear windshield. And then we flip this piece up on the side, begin to flip this down. Flip this piece up the rest of the way on the side, flip this down, and flip this piece up the rest of the way on the side and flip that down while taking the shin and putting it on the inside of the leg. Same over on this side. Ooh, we want to bring this up, bring this down, bring this up the rest of the way, bring this down, flip the shin on the inside of the leg, and this is what you have now. At this juncture, you may notice that you have a little silver peg on the foot that goes into a spot on the thigh. Sometimes they go in very nicely, sometimes they don't. That one went in nicely. This one, oh, I think they both went in nicely today. I think they both went in nicely today. Yay! Okay, now that you have that done, you come to this little yellow section on the side. You are going to fold it down so that it finishes the wheel well around the rear tire. You're going to rotate that down and get it into position and just tab it in. Over here, you want to do the exact same thing. Rotate this piece down. When you get down to position, you want to just tab it in. At this point, you're going to want to put the legs together. Don't do that yet. You're only going to give yourself more hassle than it's worth. In fact, keep the legs bent down like they are so you have room to work here with this whole piece. This is going to be the hood, the windshield, and the roof. Bring the windshield out, flip out the hood. Just out of interest's sake here, this very little front piece of yellow that's part of the hood is painted. The rest of the hood is yellow plastic. But right there, like, it looks like it matches up nicely to me. It really does. Next, you want to take these little pieces and bring them out on the doors if you haven't already done so. They may not stay there yet, but just to get them out of the way and make life easy. You want to then come to his body and flip it forward. There's a little gray tab underneath this piece here that goes into his tummy. And you're going to flip this forward. His head is now going to be down underneath. Then you come to the chest sections, which by rights should be folded down like that. At this point, you want to fold them so that they are up a little bit. You'll see that they're angled up a little bit. They're not straight. They're angled up a little bit because you want to bring this forward, and this whole piece needs to come down between, and there's not a lot of space there to do it. I find if you fold the chest pieces up on the side a little bit, you'll sort of push them down with this lower bumper piece. And it should all come down nice together. Yeah, there we go. Just like that, no problem. All right, you can even fold that little piece up if you want right now. We have the front of the vehicle done. We have the rear of the vehicle done and not tabbed together. The thing that you're trying to do is get these feet to go in under right here, kind of on either side of the hinge, and then have these two little yellow starts tab in under the rear windshield. And then you can tab the legs together. It's easiest to do this one leg at a time. If you try to do it with both of them already together, you're probably going to pop this hinge right here. And that's where the nuisance and pain of this guy comes in. So, I'm going to attempt to do this. We bring it up like that. And when we bring it up, it should be in under there. And it's not. There, I got one side in. And now the trick is to get the other side in and then sandwich the legs together. So that side in. And this one over here. I'm now aiming to get up. And for some reason, this side over here always gives me trouble. I don't really know why. A good 10 more minutes trying to get this tabbed in. You can do it without popping anything off, but it's not easy or remotely fun at all. Okay, now that that's done, wow. The arms. You come here and there's a gray armature here. You bring the whole thing down and in. Same here. You bring the whole thing down and in. You want to take the arm, once it's down and in, there, and rotate it down. Take this. Oh, and I just lost his forearm. Oh, sad times. I'd hoped that I would do this without popping anything off. That obviously worked its way off. So putting that back on, bring that arm down, turn that forearm to the side, and it should kind of go in underneath the body here. Like that. It goes in underneath the body as you close up this front fender, and you have the door left here still open and swinging. On this side, this is the solid arm. Hopefully this will be a little easier. Angle that gray hinge up, bring the arm in, turn it at the elbow so that the fist is facing out, bring up the front tire, push this piece down into the body there. Why is this piece not quite going down as nicely? There. And now you have just the two doors left here kind of flailing. And you can now thankfully close them in. You have a little kind of yellow tab there that goes in underneath, and a little yellow tab here that goes in underneath. Again, it's a little bit of a nuisance to get it in. But that side's in. Oh, and I popped the roof. Oh, heavens. This is not going nicely. Not as nicely as I would have hoped. There's the roof back in. There's that door closed and tabbed in. This door over here is closed, and can we tab it in? Tabbed in. And boom, in the end, here's Bumblebee in his vehicle mode. And now that we have him in vehicle mode, you might be asking yourself, what do you do with that little arm blaster thing? Well, underneath here we have kind of a little slot in between both of the bumper pieces, and we have these 4 rectangular sections. Well, the little rounded tab goes up between the 2 bumper pieces in that slot, and one of the rectangular tabs that's on this, well, the only rectangular tab that's on this, will go into the rectangular slot right there, or it should. And you have that, which doesn't, it's not great weapon storage at all, but at least it's better than nothing, and it's better than having it, say, on the top, or, for example, on the door. We can roll him, no problem. You can, if you are really interested in doing so, you can open out the door and flip back this piece and bring out an arm and put the arm cannon on, you know, on this arm over here so that it will have that scene where he kind of partially transformed. You can do it. I'm not doing it because it's a nuisance. Here's the thing. There's a lot of genius, care, and love that went into this conversion. Undoubtedly, outside of, say, the masterpiece movie version of Bumblebee and probably the weaponizer version, maybe, this is a really strong one. It definitely scales the best because he should be a bit smaller. Arguably. He was getting a 9. If you like a puzzle to figure out, if you like a transformation that's a challenge, this guy's for you. It's a 10. But if you're just kind of the average fan, or you're thinking about getting this for a kid, don't. It's a 1, a 2. It's not fun. It's a lot of details. It takes a long time to make sure that you tap stuff in without something else popping out. I can all but guarantee you that unless the kid you're giving this to is extremely into Transformers and very experienced with them, this will probably definitely come to you, possibly with pieces missing, and you're going to be asked to convert it. And either you're not going to be able to do it, or if you can, you're going to get frustrated doing it, just, again, as an average person who is not, you know, part of the real kind of hardcore fandom for Transformers. Me personally, I think it's kind of genius. I'm going to give the guy an overall score of a 9, personally. As frustrating as the transformation is, I see the genius behind it. For the average person, just like getting this, you know, oh, I like Bumblebee, he's pretty cool, or, oh, little Johnny or Bobby might like this. No, they won't. No, they won't. They'll like him in car mode because he rolls great and he looks cool. Well, he rolls kind of great. The shin pieces here get in the way a little bit, but he rolls pretty good. He's fun in robot mode, but going between the two, not fun for the majority of the average fan. So, my personal overall score, 9. Overall score is just a transforming toy, 3. Because it's hard. Not that it's a bad transformation. It's not. It's genius in a lot of ways. But it's not going to be for the faint of heart. Certainly not what you would expect for a mainline figure. And I know a lot of people will say, hey, it's not as complicated as masterpieces. Actually, yeah, I find this guy, granted, I'm not an MP collector and I have somewhat limited experience. I find those easier to convert, mostly because they're larger, but I find those easier to convert than this because it is smaller. Know what you're getting into if you're going to get this guy. Don't pass him over if you're a fan of the movies or if you're, you know, an actual collector who has a lot of experience with this, because I think you'll find enjoyment out of it. But if you're just that average Joe, this isn't the dude for you. Okay, now we're going to try and take him from this back to robot mode. Hopefully that'll go a bit smoother. It should, because I'm going to say this, going from vehicle to robot is definitely the easier of the two conversions. Hopefully I won't pop things off. What did I pop off getting him into this mode? That forearm. It came off. It is what it is. His roof always tempted to pop off, and in order for me not to pop it off, it took me a long, long time to get things not so much lined up. Like I said, I knew the theory of it. It's just as soon as I got something in place, something else wanted to pop. So, how do we begin this time? Easy. We open the doors. That's our easiest place to start here. Open those doors a little bit. And we can even start, maybe we can't start to do that yet. Maybe I got to begin to angle the arms down a little bit here. Bring that arm down. Hopefully this one will come down. I would say push it from behind is your best option. Yeah, okay, those are down a bit. Now we can probably start to bring these back, can we? Or not. Oh yes, we can. There, start to bring that back. And on this side, everything tabs in nice, I'll give it that. I popped it off. There, bring that out. And I popped that off because I could not get this to come out. Bring that out. This arm here, you want to turn it so all the yellow is facing the same way. Maybe even bring out the fist and swing it up. Tight tolerance. Maybe even take that little piece out. Swing this arm out, and if you did what I did and popped off the arm, put it back on now. So far again, I have popped off that forearm. It's funny, I've transformed this guy a bunch of times and popped nothing off. Of course, I was doing it a lot closer to my face than what I'm doing it here for you. So, we pick off the hood roof section there. We can even come to the front and pop that centerpiece back out, and we kind of have all of that open. Take the shoulders and bring them out again on that gray hinge. Shoulders out again on that gray hinge. Bring the body down. Tab in the rectangular tab into the tummy. Turn the headlights so that they are angled down, I guess toward his belly. Bring down the arm and bring down the other arm. And why do I keep popping that off? With both arms down, you can come to the door and flip that little piece off and flip that little piece off, and come to the back, angle down his legs, fold in the roof section, fold up the windshield, that all comes up underneath, kind of into his body, fold that down, and now you have the upper body once again done. As for the legs, well, you untab the feet from the thighs. Most likely they've come untabbed by themselves. Anyway, you begin to unfold that section. You may need to do this first. Push that in and then rotate it up. Push that in and then rotate it up on his thigh. Now you should be able to begin unfolding the legs, which again is like, it's not fun. Bring that down, bring that over to the side, fold that in, bring the shin out to the front, go to the foot and push it all the way back. Push the foot in, bring it all the way to the back and bring it up. Come to this side, take the foot and unfold it all the way down. Fold in that piece over the back, bring out his shin, push the foot back in so that that black pin is all the way in, angle it back, bring it up, and finally you have Bumblebee back in his robot mode. I managed to avoid popping the hood. I did not manage to avoid popping the forearm. For whatever reason, it did not want to cooperate with me. I was also, admittedly, a little more butterfingers with this than I would have liked to have been. But that's how you do both conversions. In theory, and you can practice it yourself, but in theory, here's what you have. Do the legs, then do the, I guess, upper part of the body, and then you need to try and fit the legs in underneath the hood, and then finally close the doors. Don't do it in any other fashion, because if you do, you're definitely going to pop off that hood piece. It is only held out with friction and not a lot of it. Is this good or is this bad? It doesn't fit in my personal collection, so I'm not the right guy to really ask that. But in terms of a Bumblebee toy, it is definitely interesting, to say the very least. And alas, here we are again, and here's Bumblebee again. I did not succeed in my attempt to convert him either way without popping something off. I managed to avoid popping the roof off, which many people have experienced, and it does come out very easily. But this kind of cannon forearm over here, for some reason, liked to pop off. I stand by what I said from the very get-go. It's a great collector figure. It's not for the average fan. It's not just for the kid that likes transforming robots. There are better options out there that are more fun and easier transformations. If you like complex conversions, this guy's definitely for you. It's not that it's bad. In fact, a lot of it is genius, as I have stated. But everything is very specific in where it has to go and where it has to tab and how you have to move it. And that might be just where the frustration comes in for some folks. He was one of the hardest I've ever had to grade. Because depending on your position, he may either be excellent or not. I'll say this, there were certain tolerance improvements made on this version of the mold over the last night version. I don't think enough to change your mind about him if you didn't like that. But if you liked him and there were just a couple of niggling things that got on your nerves, this guy might fill the bill a little bit better for you. I like him for what he is. He doesn't fit in my collection, but I like him for what he is. What do you think about this guy? Do you think it was another successful outing? I'm going to say yes overall. Not as successful as the Voyagers, but not bad, all things considered. Let me know what you think about this guy. You know I love to hear from you. And I realized that this was a little longer than usual because I showed both conversion methods. By all means, I'm going to say, please hit that subscribe button again and stick around. Thanks for giving me some of your very valuable time, and I look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit right here inside the videos.